how to get started, how to navigate the software, and how to use the basic tools to create a sketch. We'll then move on and end the lesson by taking a look at the extrude tool. We're going to cover a lot during this first lesson, so I would encourage you to take notes if you need to, or rewatch any sections you need to spend more time on. And with that, let's get started. Okay, let's get started. CREO Parametric 7. First of all, let's open the software. Great, let's just full screen that. Now, one of the most important lessons that I can teach you about CREO Parametric is that you must be organized. Organization is the foundation of your career in CREO. To be organized in CREO, every time you start a new working session, you must set yourself a working directory. A working directory is a folder in which every part, assembly, drawing you create during this working session is saved. So to create this working directory, first of all, you go to the left here where you have your folder tree, navigate to your desktop, click on that, and I'm going to go into my D drive. And now that I'm in my D drive, I'm going to right click and create a new folder. I'm going to call this CREO Tutorials. Okay. And within this, I'm going to create another new folder. I'm going to call this Lesson 1. Okay. I'm now going to navigate back to that folder. There it is. I'm going to right click that and set working directory. Now this folder, Lesson 1, is the working directory for this current working session. If you were opening up CREO to work on a previous project, you would navigate to that folder and reset that as your working directory every single time that you open CREO. So with our working directory set, this lesson is all about getting you guys used to the sketching tool and basic extrusions and dimensioning. That's really the foundation of a lot of your skills in CREO. These basic skills that you'll be learning in this first lesson will give you all the foundation you need to start learning more advanced skills within CREO. So let's get started with these skills. First of all, let's open up a new part. To do that, top left of your screen, click on the New tab here. And this tab opens up. And from this tab, you'll be able to choose what you want to do, a part, assembly, a drawing, and so on. Parts is always the default option. Again, organization is incredibly important with everything you do in CREO. So every time you create something new, remember to name it accordingly. For the purposes of this lesson, let's just call this sketching. And once we're ready, let's just press OK. Okay, so now we're in our main workspace. Let's just talk through what you're looking at here. First of all, on the main page, you'll see that we have our datum, our axes. This is 3 planes, front, top, and right, as well as the central X, Y, Z axis. These are the starting orientations that you'll have every time you create a new part or an assembly. On the left here, we now have the model tree. This will give us a hierarchy of all the different things that we'll be doing to our part, from sketching to extrusions, etc., etc. You'll be seeing more examples of this model tree as we move forward with our lessons. Along the top, we have our main toolbar. This shows all the different tools that we could be using to influence our part. And then we have this floating key here within our workspace, which effectively allows you to cycle through various orientations of our part. For example, on the Saved Orientations tool here, you can choose an orientation from which to view, let's say front, and you'll be seeing the front of your part. However, if you want to go back to the default view, again, just click and go to default orientation, and you're back to where you started. So when starting with a new sketch, the first thing you need to do is you need to orientate that sketch to one of these planes. For this, let's just choose the top plane. Once you have it selected, you'll see that it's highlighted in green, and then you go ahead and click on Sketch. And now you'll see that we have entered our sketch mode here, and you'll see that the top toolbar has altered to show now all the various tools that we can use to alter this sketch. The main body of tools that you'll most likely be using are within this sketching tab here. What you will also notice is that we are still in our default orientation and not orientated to our sketch. So if we go back to the floating key here, there's this button here, which is Sketch View. Click that, and now we'll be orientated to our sketch. If you ever find yourself out of orientation, let's say if you've accidentally clicked the middle of your mouse button and you've moved around, look at that, we're out of orientation, go back to that sketch view, and it will reorientate it for you so you're looking down at your sketch. One of the first things that I like to do every time I start a new sketch is to use the centerline tool to apply a centerline to each of our axes. The centerline tool is here within the Datum tab. Click centerline and then apply a centerline to each axis by clicking on that axis and clicking again to set it. It allows your sketches to be more easily referenced to your axes. So I'm now going to cycle through each one of these tools here, as well as various ways to dimension them, and then I'm going to show you what some basic extrusions look like for each one. Starting with the line tool, if we just select this, and I'm just going to draw, say, a triangle. You'll see that the line tool automatically attaches to the mouse, and even when you finish what you want to sketch, it will still try and create a new line. To get out of this, just press Escape, and you'll see that the line is finished. However, you can't see the dimensions yet. If you just press Escape again, now you're able to see all of the dimensions. Now that I've drawn this shape, it's very easy to alter its dimensions. Simply double-click on these dimensions, and you can input your own values. Let's say 45. This side of this triangle now has a 45-degree angle to this center line. Let's say I've made a mistake and I didn't mean to write in 45. You can always double-click this again to enter a new dimension, or you can press Ctrl-Z to go back. You can press Ctrl-Z as many times as you want while working in CREO to go back on what you've just done. It's a very useful tool, and I recommend you get used to using it. You can, of course, also use the undo and redo buttons at the top left of your screen. Let's say that I made a mistake with one of these lines and I wanted to get rid of this. The easiest way to do that would be to get the delete segment tool here within the editing tab. Click that, and then click and hold down your left mouse button, and you can drag that through that line. You'll see it's now highlighted in green. Let go, and that's now being deleted. It's a very simple way to edit some of your sketches. Okay, I'm just going to press Ctrl-Z until I've deleted all this. Okay, and now let's move on to the next tool. The next tool that we're going to be looking at is the rectangle tool. From the drop-down, you can see that there are 4 tools that we can use when creating a rectangle. Very simply put, let's start with corner rectangle. Click first to begin creating a rectangle, click again to finish it. It's that simple. Press Escape or press the Select button to see the dimensions of this rectangle you created, and then you can alter these dimensions as you wish. For example, if I wanted to have this rectangle centered around this center line, there are a couple of ways I can do this. One is I could set a dimension for this length of line here. To do this, I click on the dimension tool, click on the center line, click again on the left-hand edge of the rectangle, press the middle mouse button, and you can see that there's now a dimension here. Let's do the same thing again for the other side. Right, we've got 2 dimensions here. As you can see, they don't equal each other. Use the equal constraints tool here on each, and you can see that they are now equal to each other. And all you have to do is alter this one dimension here to affect both. By using the constraint tools and the dimension tools, you will be able to accurately specify your sketches. For a couple more examples, let's say I need to draw a line that was parallel to this rectangle, and whoops, I've accidentally drawn that at a slight angle. I can very quickly use the parallel tool to click on that line and click on this line, and you'll see that it will automatically correct itself to be parallel to that line. This would also apply to, say, the horizontal, vertical, perpendicular tools, where, let's say, you've sketched something that needs to be vertical, horizontal, or perpendicular to your sketch. These constraint tools are relatively self-explanatory. Again, for example, the tangent tool, let's say I was to draw a circle here that needed to be connected to this rectangle here. I would press the tangent tool, click on the circle, click on the rectangle, and there you go. This circle is now tangential to this rectangle. Let's move on to the next rectangle tool. I'm just going to select the delete segment, and I'm just going to very quickly whiz this through the workspace and delete everything I've just created. Okay, so the next tool on the rectangle drop-down list is the slanted rectangle. Very simply, the first place you click with this tool, you'll start to create a line. Click again to set that line, and the rectangle will form as a projection from that line. You can then dimension this rectangle however you wish by either double-clicking on the pre-made dimensions or selecting the dimension tool and using this to create your own dimensions. For example, this angle here has been pre-created. However, if I wanted to influence the angle between this line and this center line, I would, with the dimension tool selected, click this line, click the center line, finish that with the middle mouse button, and you'll see that this angle then is created. Press escape, and now you can set that however you wish. Brilliant. Right, let's move on again. I'm just going to delete all of this. Okay, the next rectangle tool is the center rectangle. The center rectangle tool allows you to create a rectangle centered around where you first click. So let's say we choose the very center of our axes, click there, then you'll see that this rectangle extends from that center point. This is very useful if you wanted a rectangle centered around your axes. Just going to delete that with Control Z, go back, there we go. Okay, and then finally we have the parallelogram, which is effectively the same as the slanted rectangle, though instead of directly projecting from the first line you create, you're able to use the mouse to put your parallelogram wherever you like. For example, draw your first line, and you'll see that with the mouse I can create my parallelogram wherever the mouse lies. You can then dimension this however you wish. Fantastic. Let's move on to the circle tools. So looking at the circle tools, you'll see that we have 4 options for the circle tool as well as the rectangle tool. The center and point is very much the same as the center tool for the rectangle. Wherever you click with the center and point circle tool, the circle will be created around that point. Let's again choose the center of our axes, click, and you'll see that the circle is created around that. Once you have created the circle, press escape again to see the final dimensions, and you'll see that we can adjust the diameter of that circle by double clicking and choosing whatever dimension we want. The next circle tool is the concentric circle tool. Now you need to have a previous circle existing for this tool to work. I've kept the previous circle up. To use this, simply click on the edge of the circle we just created, and now we have a projection of that circle that we can place. Press escape. Okay. And then we can set the dimension of the circle however we like. Let's call that 400. Great, let's look at the next circle tool. The next circle tool is the 3-point circle tool. For this tool, our circle is created around 3 points that we create. First point, second point, third point. We can then dimension this circle accordingly. You'll notice that with circles, the dimensions form around the central point. Okay, let's just delete that circle. And the next tool to use is actually the 3 tangent tool. To use this, we actually need to have 3 surfaces on which this circle can connect to. To do this, let's just very simply create a rectangle. There we go. And now we're going to choose the 3 tangent tool, and then we need to choose 3 surfaces on this rectangle for this circle to connect to. So this surface, and then this surface. And you'll see that this circle is created by snapping to these 3 surfaces. And those are all the circle tools. Moving on, let's look at the arc tools. On the drop-down list, you'll see that there are actually 5 different ways to use the arc tool. The 3 tangent and concentric are very similar to the circle tools we've just seen, so I'm not going to show them again. You can play around with these in your own time. Let's start with the 3-point tangent end. For this, we need to choose 2 points on your sketch. There's one there and one here, and from there you'll see that an arc is created. Very simple. And then you can start to alter the dimensions for this. Okay, let's do the next one. Here we have the center and ends. So with the center and ends arc tool, first of all you need to choose the center, and this would be the center of that arc or that circle. I'm going to click that into the center of our axis, and now you see that a dotted line is formed that shows you the diameter of the potential circle / arc you're going to be making. The first time you click will be the start of that arc, and then you can see the arc being created from that first point around the edge of that circle. Click again to finish the arc, and then again you can dimension this however you wish. I'm just using Ctrl Z to delete this to move on.